In this video, we are going to look at simple and compound interest. And so here at the top, I have given you a list of the formulas. The formulas will be provided for you on a test, and they are provided for you as you're doing the homework. You'll typically have to click on formulas like they have here in order to see those. So on this first problem, we have a couple who deposits $16,000 into an account that is earning 3% annual interest for 20 years. We are looking for the future value of that investment if interest is compounded quarterly. So here is a key words for you to decide which formula you need. If interest is compounded, then you cannot use the simple interest formula. And so when it is compounded quarterly, we're actually going to use the second one here, just called the compound interest formula. If it had said compounded continuously, then you would actually use the third formula. So if it had the word continuously, then you'll use that third formula. Okay, so I'm using the second formula. A is equal to P times 1 plus R divided by N to the power of N times T. And we are looking for this A value. So starting with P, P represents the amount that is invested. It is your principal. So in this case, $16,000 was invested. And then we have parentheses 1 plus R is your rate. Make sure on your rate you convert it into decimal form. So when I have 3%, you're going to drop the percent sign, and the decimal is understood to be right here. You're going to move it 2 places to the left. So 3% would become 0.03 as a decimal. The N in the formula represents how many times in a year your interest is compounded. So if they tell me quarterly, N is 4. They could say monthly, and your N would be 12. Semi-annually, your N would be 2. Or they could say weekly, and your N would be 52. And then we're going to raise it to the power of your N again, which is 4, times T is your amount of time in years. And in this case, they told me 20 years. So at that point, once you show me how you plug in, then you simply need to punch it out on a calculator, which I did down here. Make sure, depending on your calculator, you may have to put that power in parentheses like I did there, so that we make sure the 4 times 20 becomes the power. So when we round it to the nearest cent, notice we will have $29,088, and then it's going to just stay 70 cents. Now, that particular question asked you for what the future value was. Some questions may say, how much interest did you earn? So if they wanted to know interest, you will take whatever that future value is, which includes your interest, and you would subtract your original investment. And that difference would tell you how much interest this particular account has earned. And so in this case, if they asked me for interest, I would say it's earned $13,088.70. Okay, again, here are my formulas here at the top. So on this second question, we have the First Bank of Lending. They list the following APR for loans, and we are being asked to determine the APY, also known as the effective interest rate. So we are now looking at this formula down here for APY, and they're telling me I want to look at a loan between $20,000 to $99,999. So we're looking at this particular rate, and notice that they tell me that it is compounded quarterly. All right, so I'm just going to go here and plug directly into the formula. So we have our bracket, parentheses 1 plus. If we look at the rate from this table, we have a 10.99%, but again, we have to change it into decimal form. So when we slide that 2 places to the left, that becomes 0.1099. We're going to divide by 4, since they said it was compounded quarterly again. We have to raise it to the power of 4 and then subtract 1. and then we'll convert it into a percentage. So that's why they're saying times 100%. So I actually just did this part on the calculator, and so when I did that part, I had this decimal down here. And so when you change a decimal into a percentage, you're going to go 2 places to the right. That's what multiplying by 100% does. And on our final answer, they want 2 decimals to the right. So we move it 2, and then we have 2, so 11.45% would be that annual percentage rate. So you'll notice 10.99% was the original rate, but because they're compounding, you're adding interest every 3 months, and so you end up having to get interest on top of interest. So that's why in the end, on a yearly scale, that's why the interest rate looks a little bit higher. All right, once again, here are my formulas at the top. This time it says determine the simple interest. So now we're going to be using our top formula for simple interest on $10,000 after 20 years if the APR is 14%. So using my simple interest formula, my P this time is 10,000. My rate is 14%, but I change it to the decimal, 0.14, and my time is 20 years. So definitely show me how you plug it in, then you can get on your calculator and punch it out. So notice in this case, after 20 years, the money has turned into $28,000 with interest. And then finally, last but not least, we have something called a payday loan. It's going to be made for 4 weeks. So the term of the loan tell you that that for every $100 borrowed, you have to pay them $10 back in interest. So if you're going to borrow $300, so you borrowed, let's just think of it as $300 bills, you're going to owe them $10 for that, $10 for that, and $10 for that. So when it's time to pay them back, not only do you owe them the $300 you borrowed, you owe them $30 extra in interest. So you would owe a total of $330 at the end of 4 weeks.